Okay. Okay, we're live. Let's just wait a couple of seconds for people to log in. Hello, everyone. And as every Thursday, welcome to today's Gala webinar. I see that there are still people logging in. Our presenters are already ready to start the presentation, so come in, take a place. Okay. We'll start in a few seconds. All right. Okay, so as I said, welcome everyone to today's Gala's webinar. My name is Isabella Massardo. I'm content strategist here at Gala. Today's speakers are Gurpreet Khan and Ruben Rodriguez de la Fuente from PayPal. And they're going to discuss how to move away from error counting approach to measure quality, to measure content quality. Before we get started, I'd just like to remind you that at any time during the webinar, you can use the QA box to submit your questions. And as time allows, we will address as many questions as we can during the QA at the end of the presentation. This webinar will be recorded, and I'll share the link in a follow-up email. And in any case, you'll find the recording on the Gala website on Monday. So I'm going to keep it very short. Ruben and Gurpreet, I'm going to leave the floor to you. Welcome. If you want to share your screen.
Sure. So just give me a minute and I'll start sharing my screen. Thank you for the introduction and welcome everyone. And I'm clicking on the share screen and now to the deck. Let me know when you can see my screen. Isabella, if you can inform me, that would be great.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we can see it.
All right, so thank you. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, like we are across the different time zones. And today we are going to talk about measuring content quality, a customer-centric and a data-based approach. But before we dive into that, and before we introduce ourselves, I'll start with a story. And let's see if okay, all right. So the story goes like this. Once upon a time, there lived a king called Ratan Lal in a very small part of India called Ratlam. Ratan Lal was huge with big mouth stitches and a soft heart. He was known all over the world for his amazing poetry. One fine day, while he was reciting a new poem to the queen, he was very romantic. Down on his knees he went, uh, uh, and then he told to the queen, "Mon amour." And the queen looked at him with all the love in her eyes. And then suddenly something happened. The queen started running here and there. Then she started jumping. And now she's standing on the chair. Ratanlal was confused. He scratched his head and he asked, "What happened, my dear?" To that she responded, "Your Majesty, there is a rat." Rat? Rats were a common problem in Ratlam those days. There were thousands and thousands and thousands of rats all over the city. But this time, the king was angry. He said, "Let the message be sent out to the people of Ratlam that whoever kills a rat and bring it over will get $5. $5 was a big amount at that time, and people started hunting for rats left and right. Few weeks passed by, but the king was still unhappy. The reason being, with the smell of all those dead rats that people were bringing in the courtyard, the atmosphere was less than what you would call as romantic. A king was romantic, right? So he signed another executive order and said, you don't have to bring the whole rat to get the bounty. Just cut the tail of the rat and bring it over, and we'll give you the reward. And then few months passed by. And let's look at the data, right? So I've got the data. So if you look into this metric of rats killed per day, you would see that after 1 month, they were killing around 1,000 rats per day. Pretty huge, right? After 2 months, they were killing around 4,000 rats per day. And months passed by. And after 6 months, they were killing around 20,000 rats per day. And looking into this metric, you would think that the problem should have been resolved now, or at least should have been close to a resolution. But the fact was, they barely made a dent to the original problem. So our king Ratanlal, he ordered an inquiry. He brought all his uh, uh, people, the close people, and then he said, "What's going on?" And there were two observations, right? So the first observations was uh, there are lots of tailless rats roaming all over the city. So if you imagine, like there is the rat, like all the rats, like they were seeing were tailless. So what was happening was people were cutting the tail of the rat and leaving it so that it can breed other rats, and they will do the same thing, get the bounty. So that was the first observation. The second observation was uh, there was a budding industry of people actually breeding rats. So instead of solving the problem, they actually contributed to the problem, right? So basically what was happening was like there was this incentive, right? So people were lost in those metric, and the problem was like they want to reduce the number of rats, but what was happening was with this metric, people were manipulating it. So if you bring it close to this corporate world or the work that we do on a daily basis, you would see that what you measure is what you get, right? So we get lost in these vanity metrics, right? So this is if you think of the big corporations that we work for, like, they'll be lost in those monthly active users, the daily active users, the number of issues or the error messages that are being sent. So rather our focus should be on what is the customer friction point, like what are the problems that the customers are facing. And so what you measure is what you get, and measures can have unintended consequences. So with this story, what I wanted to highlight was here they had this metric of a number of rats killed per day, and then because there was this unintended incentive for them, some kind of a incentive for them, like it resulted in this unintended consequence for it. So this is what we have, and then this was the story that I had. And next, I would like to pass it on to Ruben. Like maybe I can give an introduction about myself. I'm Gulrez Khan. I'm a senior data scientist at PayPal. I've joined PayPal around 18 months ago, and have been very happy here working in the World Ready team. And before that, I was at Microsoft for 12 years working on these interesting data insights problem. And even outside my day job, I love playing around with the open data sets. So I'll pass on to our other speaker, Ruben. And Ruben, over to you.
Yeah. So my name is Ruben. I'm a data scientist at PayPal. I've been with PayPal for 12 years, but I've only been working on the data space officially for the last couple of years. Before that, I was working on machine translation, and before that, I was working on human translation, all within PayPal. So I just and just got attracted to the to the technical side of things, and that's how I ended up here. Next, Glorious. So as Glorious mentioned, we belong to the Already team within PayPal. The mission of the Already team is to lead the expansion of PayPal into multiple markets. We are responsible for the text on the user interface in all the languages that PayPal supports, including English as well. And I think that's something unique, because from what I know, usually you have the source content team on one side, and you have the localization team on the other side, dealing with so-called foreign languages. But in PayPal, we are under the same umbrella, and I see that as something really positive. Now, our job is more than put words in a user interface, and part of what we do is measure the quality of those words. Want to move to the next one? So quality is a very slippery term. Personally, I prefer things like performance, effectiveness, but it's also a commonly used term in the industry. So we are sticking to that. As I was saying, it's very slippery, and I want to illustrate that with with this quote: "Quality is what the customer says it is." I shared before that I used to be a translator. As a translator, a typo or a comma in the wrong place, it can drive me really nuts. And then, users won't pay attention to that. At the same time, a paragraph I might be particularly proud of, the beautiful writing style, might be hard to comprehend for the user. So yeah, quality is very subjective. Next.
You can just say ting, and I'll move on to the next slide.
All right. So traditionally, we have defined quality, in terms of the number of errors found, their category, and and their severity. The primary example of this is the Lisa QA model that I'm adding here for illustration and out of nostalgia. Really, these days you have more modern models like the Taos dynamic quality framework, and also the MQAIM multi-dimensional quality measurement. The principle is the same, though. Just counting and categorizing errors. Next. So there's value in counting and categorizing errors. As a matter of fact, I think there's value in knowing how many linguistic defects there are in your content. So we do our own version of measuring quality as a function of errors. We do this in two ways. One is through automated checks. So we check our content for clarity. Clarity is essentially very similar to readability. So it's a mathematical function that will let you know how easy or difficult it is to understand a piece of text. And then we also check grammar and spelling automatically. Then I like to quote here the relationship that Günter Grass, the German writer, used to have with their translators. With his translators, he used to invite them over for a week retreat. And and they would spend the week discussing the words of the choice of words and all that. I think that's a good illustration of the fact that no one is going to read your copy as carefully as a translator. The translator needs to read the source very, very carefully. So we take advantage of a feature of our translation management system that allows translators to annotate the source content when they find issues, and in particular, they are the issues they are flagging are ambiguity, when something is not unclear, and inconsistency. Then we combine this information to come up with with a linguistic quality score. But the problem with this is that in PayPal, we want to be really customer-centric. We want to put the customer at the center of everything we do. And the errors, as I was saying before, will not inform you much on user experience. And that's why we need to come up with with information that let us know where our customers are struggling. Ding. Before I move on and share examples of such data sets, I want to give a warning that a challenge we are facing is that content is embedded in design and functionality. So often you will need to, once you identify a customer pain point, you will need to do this exercise of a crime scene investigation, where you need to dig deeper and identify, well, there's a problem here that could be related to content, to the text not being clear enough, but it could also be design. The content is good, but because of design, it doesn't have the right visibility, or it could be related to functionality. Like particularly if you're thinking of dynamic content. Sometimes good content is shown at the wrong moment. So it's a bit of a needle in a haystack kind of exercise, but very exciting and very rewarding when you succeed. So here are some data sets we are working with. So customer feedback is comments from the users that we collect through surveys in our website. When our users are in the PayPal website, they have the possibility to click a feedback link and give us feedback, or they might see a pop-up if we want to know about feedback, to get their feedback about the particular experience. So these are explicit comments from the user, and they are super valuable because they tell you right away what's not working for them. Behavioral data refers to to all the tracking information we have about the activity that users do when they are in the website, like the pages that are visited the most, whether they are able to complete the task they are supposed to in a given page, or maybe instead of completing the task, they are going to the help center from that page. So that could be a good indicator that there's something wrong with with that page. And finally, there's contacts to customer support. We are able to correlate a contact to customer support with the with the last sequence of pages that the user visited before calling customer support. So we are making two assumptions here. One is that generally when a user is contacting you is because they are having trouble. They are not calling to say they love you or how happy they are with their service. They are calling because they are experiencing some problem. And the second assumption is if 2 hours before calling PayPal's customer service, the user was on this page, let's go and see that page and see if there's anything wrong in there. Over to you, Boris.
Thank you, Ruben. So, so we all have lots of data in about our customers, right? So when I think of even in this call right now, there is tons of data which is being generated. Where are the location where people have logged in from? What is their ethnic background? How many people are on the video camera? How many people are multitasking? How many people have other browsers open, right? So all these are different data points, and then it's up to us as a data scientist that we combine this data and tell stories and figure out like what are the customer friction points. Here there are three different categories, as Ruben pointed. So customer feedback, behavioral data, customer support context. We are using all of this data set to tell those stories about our customers, what are the problems that they are having. So going to taking a stab at customer feedback. And right now, what you're seeing is this is this is like using natural language processing to cluster the feedback into different clusters, right? So here you've got one cluster of friends. Maybe let me use the pen over here. Okay, so this cluster is friends and family recommendation. You see love and mother-in-law, mother-in-law, all that stuff. You've got the cost and affordability, positive customer service. You've got general usage, issues related to sound quality, listening, conversation, issues related to fit and comfort. So this is not the actual feedback from people, but this is from Amazon reviews of some data set that I picked up. But we do something similar for the feedback with the feedback, the verbatim that we have, and we try to identify like if there is a theme, right? So once you have got certain clusters, you identify like is there a theme or something that is there. One of the issue that we saw, and let me move to the slide so that you're not distracted by what is written over there. So one of the theme which we saw was it was um, in the content we call certain thing as suspicious activity, and you would see that that particular content or text is displayed either in a notification being sent out to our users, or it could be uh, a pop-up when a user is doing certain thing. And when we churned the customer feedback, we found out like there's a lot of confusion. And in fact, what was happening was this particular phrase was used at a lot of places and was kind of generic. So one of the use case that we found out was a person has just created a PayPal account, and then uh, there is the onboarding steps, right? So you add a phone number, you add your bank account, all those details. Maybe that person has not completed all of those actions, and what happened is, since were using that generic message, uh, we send out a message that hey, because of suspicious activity, your account is disabled or whatever it is. So the customers were confused. We dived more into the feedback, and what we found out was there was feedback around, "Hey, I've just created my account right now. How could that be a suspicious activity?" And I just created my account 5 minutes ago. How does creating an account be a suspicious activity? So we found out we had a cluster, then we had a theme, and then we see okay what is the problem. So now we are trying to separate out the different use cases and have a different content. So that was one of the use case that we had, and like these other clusters that you are seeing, we would see other use cases as well, and it helps us separate out signal from the noise that we have. Uh, then like there are other things that we are also doing over here with respect to the content. Uh, so we get these millions of records in customer feedback, but not all of that feedback is related to content or user experience. There could be other feedback which could be related to performance or things on those lines. But if your stakeholders, like sitting in the world ready team, if your stakeholders are the content folks, so what do we do? So we use the machine learning, we do classification, we turn that into a classification problem. And with that, we would separate out which comments are related to content, which are not related to content. So again, instead of the content people looking into all the millions of records, now they have a small subset of data which they are looking into. So that was around one of the use case for behavioral data. Oh, sorry, for the feedback data. Then there is this behavioral data, and this is another use case. So basically, what was happening was, again, like from the feedback data, we looked into it, and as I was saying, like there's tons and tons of data. So with the feedback data, we were able to figure out like what was the previous stage of the user before they came and gave us a feedback. What page were they on, or what action they were doing. So we saw that there is a section or a category of feedback which is coming when we send out notifications to our users. Those notifications could be add a phone number, you get an email, and from there, a person clicks and they go land onto the PayPal site. And when they go to the PayPal site, maybe they were not able to find that button or a place where they add the phone number. They did find a feedback button at the bottom, so they went there and they said, hey, this is a terrible experience, you send me an email to add a phone number, but when I land over that page, there is no place where I can add a phone number. So another notification could be uh, payment reversal, or things that I want my refund. So you created a case and you get an email that, hey, you need to provide a reason why should we refund you. So they click on that button, they log into PayPal, and then you would see that they start providing the reason why they should get a refund. So those were the things. Now with that background, showing this fancy diagram, right? So what you are seeing over here is like a here. Where is my pen? Okay, I think I have it. So here in this section, what you see is these are all the different email notifications, and the size of these bars represents the number of comments. Right? So on this side, on the left side, you are seeing, okay, these are the different bars with the number of comments which came from each type of notification. And on this side, what you see is, you see these are the different pages where they go to after they get this notification. So, uh, and with that, so yeah, so basically tracing the path of notification from inbox to escalation. And now when I combine, like I add those paths, like if you see those ribbons, so you see this is a big ribbon over here for payment reversals, something which I talked about, right? So we were seeing that there was a lot of comments people were giving for this particular email template. And all of those users go to this disputes page. And we were wondering what's happening, right? Why are people going from payment reversal to disputes page? Then there are other things as well. So if you see this particular notifications being sent out, add a phone number, from there they go to my account page, right? So there is this bar which is taking them to my account page, and that's where they are giving feedback, so things on those lines. So this visualization tells us about the email templates, the number of comments, and the account pages. or the different pages where they are going to. So the thing with let's just focus on this payment reversal, this button, this thing, right? So what was happening with that
Sorry,
is,
sorry, Walrus. One quick comment here.
yeah.
What I like about that illustration, and I would like to highlight that, is that essentially what you're showing there is the customer journey. You know, from
Mhm.
the time they receive the email to what on the website they go to, and then and then they leave the and then they leave the comment. So
Mhm.
this is very powerful information.
Yeah, so goes back to like there's tons of data. How do you combine those data sets, tell a story? So here's we are telling a story, combining the different data sets, looking at the user journey from the content lens. So we have got other people who look into the different data set, but sitting in the content team, since we serve the content team, we look from their lens, and this is what came out. So with that, like focusing on the payment reversal template. So this is how the template looks like, pretty simple. And then there is this button at the bottom. When people click over there, they go to this page. And this is, I believe, in French, but what you're seeing over
German,
here is, yeah, so this is French, right?
German.
Yeah. German, sorry. Yeah. So this is German, and what you're seeing is when they click on that page, they land onto. When they click on that notification, they land onto this page, and basically what's happening here is, and this is the disputes page, or this used to be a disputes page, and it will show you the disputes that you have created. So this is the dispute which was created, and if you have other disputes, they would maybe be there in other rows, right? And then there are these two buttons that you would see. There is this button, which is where the case is open for you, and then there is this button, which is giving a feedback. And now our users get lost, they get confused. Where should I click? And they end up clicking on this feedback button. When they click on the feedback button, they would give response on why they should have their refund. So they go there and report that hey, you sent this an email that I have to give a reason for why my charge should be reversed. So here is the reason. But since they have not given the reason here in this case, the customer support representative who are processing their case are not able to see the comments. This feedback is mostly for the product managers, and this result in unhappy user experience, and they would end up and call customer support and say that, hey, what are you doing, I've already provided a reason and all that stuff. So with this, what we did is we made a change, uh, and instead of this link taking people to this page, we actually took them into this specific case which was open for them, and they go there and directly, like, don't have double click, have two clicks, they go there, provide a reason and come back. And with this, like, we were as you see, we applied the fix over here, and the number of comments for the reasons, like, it went down drastically, and it ended up in a good customer support, good customer experience. So yeah, so this was it. And then there were other things that we added, be more clear how to add a phone number, because we are seeing, and there is this these many comments we people are adding, and bring more correct page, bring me to the correct page to perform the action from email. So these are the sort of comments we are seeing. How am I doing on the time, Ruben?
I think we're good.
Okay. So that was the portion of the behavioral data. Like, there are these other things that we try to understand, and here what what happens is, like, this is a visualization about how people are moving when they go to create an invoice, and then they go to one page to another page and another page, and it's the same data that you would see in this format as well. And here in this thing, what we found out was, let's say, to give an example, you logged on to Google and you search for a laptop. You want to purchase a laptop and you type that, hey, I want to show me laptops on sale. So you get a list of different threads, and then you click on one of them and you see, okay, I don't like this result, and you hit the back button. We were seeing something similar. So when we were uh, so so this is for the invoice, but the example I'm giving is for the disputes. So basically what was happening was, in disputes there were these 4 or 5 options we were showing when people go and file a dispute. So you see, option 1 would be billing, then another option would be item not as described and item not received, all these different things. And we show people these different options, and when people click on that and they see like the details that they have to add or the content which is written over there, they hit the back button and they land back to the previous page. We were seeing something similar, and we were wondering, why is this happening? And then like we combined it with the feedback data. So remember the other data set that I showed you, right? So feedback data, behavioral data, and the customer contact. So we look into the behavioral data, and with the natural language processing, you would see some kind of a word cloud which says options. So, and when you click on that, you see here the more details around options. What are people saying about options? And they said that you're providing very limited set of options, and maybe you need to provide more options so we can provide, we can log a ticket on the correct option. So this was like kind of combining the different data sets together. Ruben, over to you.
Yeah. So this is search data. This is essentially what our users are searching for in search engines when they when they search about PayPal. Now it can be behavioral data because it's user behavior, but but it's also kind of similar to customer feedback in the sense that that it's using text, and it's a very interesting data set to look at because what people are searching for can help you identify gaps in your content, right? Like maybe cases where your content is not clear enough, or maybe the content is clear, but but it's not being shown with enough visibility, or it needs to be shown in more pages so that the users are familiar with the idea. So here you have a nice nice visualization, showing you all those search strings. Coming from search data when people look about PayPal. Gores, how did you could you highlight for me the payment pending section? I'm trying to find a pen, but I don't. Maybe because I'm not presenting. You see the section PayPal when? It's towards the left. Yeah. So if you look at that one in particular, you see that pending is something repeating, right? Like why is my payment pending? So this could point to the fact that we don't provide our users enough information about when they can expect a payment to be completed, or when they can expect to hear back from us if they open a dispute. So very very useful data to identify content gaps, and it's also larger than customer feedback, right? Not a lot of people would take the time to give you feedback, but people are searching all the time. So this is definitely a very interesting data set to look at. Ding. So now we're going to be looking at customer support contacts. Essentially here, the idea is that, again, if the customer calls you, it's because it's having a problem. Can you show the first screen for us? So this is an error message. There's an issue with your account. You can contact us for help resolving it. Done. Error messages are tricky because they, you don't have a lot of space to provide the explanations, and often, it can be the case that there could be multiple reasons for showing an error message. So in this particular screen, if they click on contact us, they would go through through the steps to contact customer service, which are a few steps. It's not something that you do right away. But if they click on done, please show the next one. If they click done, then they are taken to their profile page, where there's this section called notifications, and it says very clearly your account access is limited because we need you to provide information. And when they click provide information, next, they get to this page where PayPal specifies what info they need from the user, and and they also give the possibility to upload it directly. So here we have an example of how content can be very impactful, both for the user experience and for the business. For the user experience, because we are putting users through the frustration of going through customer service, and and for the business, because we are increasing the operational expenses in a case where what a user could have resolved the problem easily. So generally, error messages is something that should help the user move forward on their own. And this is something that is not happening here, and it could have been avoided. And I think, yeah, over to you, Boris. You are on mute.
All right. Thank you, Ruben. I think you covered it pretty well, and that was a good example. Now, when we think of combining these different things together, or bringing everything together, right? So, how did we start? We start with the story of a rat, right? So the idea was we don't want to have these unintended incentives or the consequences. So if we just get ourselves buried in those metrics, those vanity metric, then it could have a very bad user experience, because we are not listening to our customers. We are not looking to those friction points. So we started with that, and then we looked into what other data sets that we have. We have the data around the feedback, behavioral, customer support context, and then we showed you some case studies that we were able to do. A lot of this work was just about combining the data together and working with our subject matter experts to tell that compelling story, and then we were able to make fixes and take it till the end, right? And we are still figuring it out, right? So we are fortunate to have a very good leadership here at PayPal and the World Ready team, who has confidence in us, and we are providing impactful results. And there are other things that we are doing, like we are working along with the user friction points identified via the feedback. We are also looking into adding the metrics with which people can, the content folks could look on a regular basis and see what is the user comprehension, are there any grammar errors, or are there uh, uh, other errors related to spelling or things on those lines? What is the tone of voice for the content? So things on those lines. And then we are also working with A/B testing to see to do experimentation and see, okay, will this email template perform better with regards to the completion of call to action, or would it be something else? And then we are adding more data science into this. One of the project which our intern is working right now is kind of identifying what are those high value attributes of user notification, which would lead to more call to action, completion of call to action. So is it and those features would be the body of the email, what is the readability of that email, what is the subject of the email, what is the tone of voice, things on those lines. And with that, I would like to thank you and maybe take some questions if we have time.
Gores,
Yeah.
I'd like to mention something else that that I forgot to say earlier. So going back to the to what I mentioned in the beginning about how in already we have source content designers and and localizers and how unique that is. A great advantage of that is a lot of the examples we've shown here are in English, but as you can imagine, when you're translating, when you're localizing, those issues will be multiplied by the nearly 50 languages that we are currently supporting. So although we have referred primarily to source content examples, this is super relevant for localization as well. I just wanted to call that out.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys. Let's see whether there are some questions. If you want to ask a question to Ruben and Gures, please type it in the QA box. And I see there is one to start with from Sissy. When collecting customer feedback, referring to what you just said, Ruben, when collecting customer feedback, do you collect them in different languages, and how do you analyze them? Do you use MT? Do you go to localizer? Do you use LSP services, for example?
So we do both. We have our language experts, our localizers, look at customer feedback. We try to come up with with a nice visualization so that they can identify the themes and the patterns. Ultimately, when feedback refers to localized versions of the products, you need to involve localizers to suggest the fix. So that is something that we do, but we also use machine translation because I don't know, maybe you have a product manager who's interested in knowing how their product is performing in, say, Germany or China, like they recently launched in China, and they want to see what the customer feedback is. Now, having worked in machine translation for nearly 7 years, I can say that generally machine translation does a good job in getting the gist. So that's an option we use as well. So we do both. Very long answer. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Let's see whether there are any other questions. If someone wants to talk directly to our presenters, just raise your hand and I'll open your microphones. Let's give it a couple of seconds. or maybe not, because probably everything is pretty clear. You guys were very detailed. Let's see.
Yeah, so even outside this, like if people want to reach out to us, maybe they can connect to LinkedIn, and we would be happy to learn from each other, provide our feedback.
Yeah, exactly. Well, first of all, let me thank you guys for taking the time to present at Gala. And of course, as soon as I close the webinar, there's going to be on the attendees screen a feedback form. So if you guys want to fill it in and let us know what you think of today's topic or any other question, your feedback is always welcome, because it helps us refine our webinar program. And just let me tell you what's in store for next week. We have a nice segue to today's webinar. There's going to be the VMware team this time presenting about ways to, let's say, utilize the power of data analytics in a software as a service environment. You can find the link to the webinar on our site, but I'll include it in the follow-up email together with the link to today's recording. And most importantly, on June 29, we have the Global Talent Mentoring event. So if you're an up-and-coming localization student or a recent graduate, think about joining. You'll have the chance to talk with 5 experts and mentors. So let me see if there's another question. Yes, there is another one. So we still have 10 minutes, so I think we can take it. So the question is, in the beginning, I think it was you, Ruben, who mentioned Lisa and the DQF. How is it related to measuring content quality? How is it related to measuring content quality you come to? Not sure.
Yeah, so so a model like like Lisa and DQF is is part of how we try to measure quality. What we found though is that again things like Lisa QA only give you information about the about the linguistic quality. So we wanted to complement that with with insights about the customers. And that's that's what we're doing. That's that's what Gulrez was saying, that we are combining different different data sets. And this is kind of the beginning of of the journey. In a way, part of what we are planning to do is to see what are the the relationships between, say, linguistic quality and and customer satisfaction. I think one of the problems we have, in general, as content writers, or translators, is that it's very difficult to prove the value of what you do. So if you're able to go beyond, these many bugs, these many issues, and instead can go to, look, because I'm able to to write clearer copy, now I improve the user comprehension, and and that brings the the customer satisfaction, that brings an increase in customer satisfaction of X%, right? So essentially, what we're trying to do is to take the information from models like the Lisa QA model, and and combine that with customer-centric data, for for a better model, essentially.
Exactly.
Do you wanna add to that, or?
Yeah, I think you covered it pretty well.
Okay. All right. Let's see whether there are other questions or no. If there are any other questions, you can always send them to us, and we'll forward them to Gulrez and Ruben, of course. If you guys have 5 minutes to write down some answers for our participants, of course, it would be. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone, Gurez and Ruben.
Sorry, Isabella. I see
There's
another
another
question last minute.
Okay, I think I've been too fast. Okay, let's read another question. So following up on the previous question about Lisa and the DQF, this attendee writes, he or she agrees that relying on linguistic quality alone will not measure customer experience, but do you still use some of these models to analyze your LSP performance?
Yes. So we are not giving up on on Lisa QA or or things like that. We're just trying to complement that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I think, if I remember correctly, we were talking during the dry run about the fact that LSPs sometimes need to change their way of working when you show them this data science-based approach. Do you want to maybe say something about that?
Yeah. So for instance, there was this question about how we work with with customer feedback in in languages other than English. So having localizers work with with customer feedback, trying to identify how that is related to content and how they can implement a fix that that will address that that pain point. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a new skill, I would say. I don't know, like maybe similar to transcreation or to post editing or to doing localization for search engine optimization, right? It's personally, I have the feeling that there are not so many content writing and localization teams that that are leveraging data science the way we do. Mm-hmm. I would love to hear of more examples because, like I said earlier, I feel we are in the beginning of the journey and we have many avenues to explore. So it would be great to hear from other people. But I'm under the impression that this is not so common in the localization industry.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. All right. I think we can now close the webinar. Again, if you have any questions, send them to us and we'll forward them to our speakers. Guys, thank you again for taking the time and thank you to all attendees. I'm hoping to see you to another gala event very soon. And for now, have a good day or a good evening, depending on where you are. Bye, everyone.
Thanks for having us. Have a good one.
Bye.